Welcome back to Any Given Monday with Bob Harig, long time. I've been a reader for Bob of years and years. Awesome to have him on the pod. Him and I talk often. Bob, how are you?
Doing well, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
I think let's start because it's your most recent article. You just wrote it today or published it today. Is Q School. As soon as I saw in the States, I got a lot of text messages from Korn Ferry players, and then all of them said the same. You probably said the same. Not surprising to see the news from the PGA Tour today, considering it's in the States and they know a lot of players would go and at least take their chance, considering they don't have to travel as they would have in the past 2 years.
Yeah, you're talking about the LIV promotions event.
Yeah.
And I don't think they did this in reaction to it. That's been their rule. They just don't give. They do not give releases for domestic events, and domestic events that are, televised media. It doesn't conflict with anything, so that's not a problem. But it is going to be broadcast, and so that's the problem. And this issue goes back to the beginning of LIV. It's always why I paused when there was the talk about, well, shouldn't they be able to play wherever they want? And I get that to a degree. But the problem is, as a PGA Tour member, you sign the regs that say that we are not giving you a release for any domestic event. And so the second that a LIV guy wanted to play the Portland event, which was their second one, he was going to be in violation. So now the promotions, they've played their first two outside of the U.S. They played in Abu Dhabi the first year, and they played in Riyadh last year for this season. And the tour allowed that because they were out of the U.S. The problem that some guys ran into, I believe, with the second one was the tour also has a rule that you have to apply for the release. I believe it's 45 days before the event. And LIV didn't announce the event until within 45 days. So the second these guys went for it, they were out of violation. Now, I think the tour was a little bit more lenient in that case. I think they let some guys slide.
They did.
I don't think they will in this. I mean, I asked the questions. What about even guys who are not PGA Tour members or never have been? And this goes back to like a guy like Eugenio Chacarra, who never was on the tour. But when he left LIV, he was going to have to sit out for a year, really basically until now, before he could play at any PGA Tour events. Now, I don't think he was going to Q School. He doesn't appear in position to qualify via the DP World Tour. But had he would have needed to wait that year. And so if I have a problem with any of their rules, it's probably that one. Why are you going to penalize somebody who has no affiliation with you for trying this? Maybe they don't make it, and then they said, okay, well, I want to Monday qualify at the American Express. They're not going to let you. Clearly, it's a hard line stance. They are wanting to, take away any idea that you would want to go play for LIV. They're being very, very hard line about it.
Yeah, I want to follow up with a question about that, but I agree with you, Bob. But I also think this can be easily done. It just doesn't have to be a blanket statement. We ran into this with this grass league. It's a par 3 league, and they're not allowing America's players to go. I get that you can't just let players play anything. I'm never the guy who's like, they should be able to play it's a tour, it's a competition. I get that. But the America's guy who just wants to play in an event, or in this case, he wants to play in Q, he wants a place to play. Most players just want a place to play.
Yeah.
And that is where I struggle with the ban of you're banning a guy who's on the America's tour or has America's status next year from trying to go make a living on again, you can forget about the 2 LIV spots. The 10 international series spots in Asia is a good place to play these days. It used to be
No
the
question.
Asian Tour. Like if you didn't have a place to play, okay, you can go to Asia, maybe break even, keep your career going, get some world ranking points. But it wasn't a great place to play. Since LIV has done it, Americans go there all the time. They've had, outside of the travel that's difficult at times, it's a good tour to play on. So those 10 cards are good. And that's where I struggle. It just seems like a media rights can be, if you have full status on Korn Ferry or above, you can't play. Anybody else? I know that's a sticky situation, but it just seems easy.
You would think that there might be a little bit of leniency or maybe take it on a case-by-case basis. I realize that they don't want to create any workarounds or, they don't want to set precedent. But to your point about the international series, that's the other thing about the promotions event that gets lost is the next 10 or the top 10 are fully exempt out there. Those are 10 events with $2.5 million, $2 million to $2.5 million purses. That's a lot more than the Korn Ferry Tour.
Yeah.
And
it's
then
weaker fields, quite frankly, Bob, right?
It is. It is weaker fields.
If you're a good player in the United States, you're going to have a very good chance to play well on the Asian Tour. It's not terrible as everyone says. It's just not as strong top to bottom as the Korn Ferry Tour. So it's like, if you're an American player and you get international series, that's a good place to play. It just is. And again, guys just want a place to play.
And it's also, the international series is like their elevated events of the Asian Tour. Mm-hmm. But playing on the international series is going to also allow you to play regular Asian Tour events. Yeah. And while those are not as lucrative, those are a lot less. If you could win the Asian Tour Order of Merit, that's going to get you in the PGA Championship and it's going to get you in the Open. Yeah. So going there, there used to be direct access into the DP World Tour, not anymore. But going there does at least give you that. And obviously, if you wanted to take the LIV route, 2 spots from that now are going to get you on LIV, which is very lucrative. So again, I think it all goes back to where we are. There's no deal imminent. And I think if there were to have been a deal, these things would have all been worked out. I've said all along that it's been in LIV's interest or, the PIF's interest to make a deal because it would help, I think, clear up some of this stuff. Yeah. The tour would probably drop some of these sanctions, or at least they would in time. You wouldn't have Bryson or Rahm come back to the PGA Tour full time. It wouldn't work, but you would maybe get them in a few events. Yeah. And it might clear up TV windows for LIV. If they're part of the PGA Tour in some way, then it's in the tour's best interest to help them, to be profitable, frankly. Yeah. The tour needs to be profitable. But right now, if they're going to be adversaries, the tour is going to want to, keep guys from going there because otherwise, if it's easy for them to go there, why wouldn't they just do it? Yeah. Let's be honest, it's a pretty nice way to make a living playing for LIV right now. Even if you don't 100%. Even if you don't get much upfront money, which apparently is kind of going away, you're going to get a team deal that's going to cover your travel. Yeah. You're going to the minimum amount you can make every week is $50,000 for last place. I mean, if you bet on yourself, any level of success out there, you're going to be making $2 to $3 million. You got to play really well to make $2 to $3 million on the PGA Tour.
100%. If you polled players, and if without status, and they said what Q school, I understand it's not really Q school on the LIV, but if you could get a card on any tour, if you're just trying to make a living, it's LIV. You're automatically going to be a millionaire. It's just never going to happen. Let's talk quickly about the promotions event. Again, Bob, do you think LIV put it in the United States? I think it speaks to the lack of relationship between the PGA Tour. Did they do it to kind of poke the bear? So either they were going to get players or they were going to make the PGA Tour announce, even though it's a rule set, that they were going to suspend players that went there. Was this to poke the bear of hey, you're going to have to suspend these players, get bad PR from it. What was the motivation, do you think, to have the promotions event in the States?
It's a good question. I try to get some answers from this, and as we're speaking now from LIV, I've not heard back. Like, I asked them, did you know that this was going to be a non-starter for the PGA Tour? To be honest with you, I wasn't sure that it was. The media rights thing gave me pause, but I wondered about that. I wasn't quite sure. And so I asked the question, and I got the answer. Yeah, it's considered unauthorized. It wasn't just a matter of you needed a release. You're not going to get one. And if you do it, you're facing, penalties. Yeah. So did LIV know this? I mean, because certainly it's an easier access point to play it in Florida for a lot more players, whether they're PGA Tour guys or Korn Ferry guys or not. So my sense is it's more about that. Like, it's easier for guys to get to it, even if they have no status. And maybe if you're like a mini tour player in Florida and you've not made it, you already know you didn't make it out of Q school, maybe you're willing to give up a year and bet on yourself to try to get out there. And maybe that's what they were looking at. I mean, to go all the way to Riyadh, I mean, let's be honest, how many golfers are there in the Middle East that we're going to want to make that trip? Even though, look at LIV pays prize money for this thing.
Good prize money. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a $1.5 million purse, and I believe just about everybody gets something. Even so it wasn't like it was a total loss. But even if you live in the UK, it's not much farther to come to Florida than it would have been to go to the Middle East. So maybe it was that. But to be honest, I have not gotten an answer. I don't know. I don't know if they were trying to poke the PGA Tour or not. But if they knew that it was going to preclude guys from playing because they were going to possibly run into problems, I'm a little surprised they're playing it domestically, because it is going to cut down on their pool of players.
I thought if they wanted to do the same thing they've done in the last few years, Bob, is play it not in the Middle East, somewhere in Europe or closer for guys in the States to get there. And then they're not under suspension and they're more likely to take a chance. Again, right. I just talked to Mark about it. It's like, who is going to go to this promotions event? Like, if you want to go to Q school next year, you can't go.
That's right, because it's in January, so you've missed the whole thing. Yeah.
So like, you're giving up 2 years because you can't go play Mondays this year for a qualifier. So it's like, man, so the criteria, for those listening that don't know, there's like a large criteria. It's pretty broad, but it's going to eliminate any mini tour player that doesn't have status. So now you're just filling up the field with mini tour players for the most part. I just don't see Korn Ferry guys, even conditional guys. If they finish last at final stage, they're not going to this. They might consider it if it was like actually playing a LIV event or something, but
right. That's the problem.
It's just, I just don't see it.
That's the problem LIV faces right now too, is most of the guys who have come onto the tour through promotions that are international series are a rung or two down from their core players.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're nowhere near in the league of Bryson and Rahm and Koepka and DJ and Cam Smith, and they're really not even in the middle tier.
Yeah,
you're seeing those guys not make it out there, and this is where I've made the argument before that LIV is not deep, but it does have good players at the top. Yeah. And so, and so a guy who does get out there, though, and this is another angle, another story, them not having OWGR, people think that, oh, well, it's too far gone. Well, no, it really isn't. Look at Tom McKibben's doing without getting any LIV points. He's 85th in the world now after winning in Hong Kong. He's playing in the Middle East these next 2 weeks, Abu Dhabi and Dubai, with a chance to earn more points. Even without that Masters invite from Hong Kong, he might have made it into the top 50 without. Imagine what would be the case if he were getting any level of OWGR through LIV.
Yeah.
He'd have probably maybe been in the top 50 by now.
100%.
So, their points wouldn't be as anywhere near as high as a PGA Tour event, and maybe they wouldn't be as many DP World events, but they'd be more than a bunch, and they'd probably be more than Korn Ferry. And it's nothing to sneeze at. Neiman would be top 10 in the world right now if they were getting OWGR. Having won 5 times. So there's a lot in play there. But to your point, you're right. It's a big risk for those guys with no status. And if they don't make it, then what do they do?
Yeah. Okay, let's switch to the OWGR. The LIV is making a lot of changes. Just announced they went to 72 holes. You reported that there's another team going to be added, or the field's going to expand, more promotions from the promotions event, or more people getting through the promotions event, more people getting through from Asian one from each tour. My take, Bob, and again, I don't know, I'm asking you, it seems like maybe the OWGR gave them a checklist of things they had to do in order to start to get points, and they're just starting to work down that list. Is that what you're hearing, or is that what you feel is kind of going on?
It certainly seems that way. I mean, I would argue that the OWGR gave them a broad checklist when they denied them in 2023. And I've written this many times. I've talked about it many times. The fact that they gave up on it has always been puzzling to me.
Yeah.
But in 2023, when they were denied, Peter Dawson, who was then the chairman, came out and basically said, look, we just don't think that their tour fits in with every other tour. At the time, there were 24 other tours. Now there's 25 who have legitimate pathways in, who have relegation, and who have field variants. Like every week, there's a different set of players that are coming on and off of tournaments, which presents risk, which is why the OWGR accredits them. Whereas with LIV, when you have the same 54 guys every week, there is no risk. And your field rating actually creeps up because nobody changes. So they gave them a bit of a blueprint. And what I never understood is why didn't they call them the next day and say, okay, look, guys, how can we comply? And I would have, if I were LIV, I would have been beating them over the head for meetings and say, look, we are willing to do this. We might not be able to get it done in time for 2024, but we'll do it for 2025. We've got the resources. Help us make the move. Then if OWGR doesn't help them, it's on them. Yeah. I mean, I've also said I think OWGR has not been transparent enough. They hurt themselves early on by not explaining why LIV was not complicit. They could have said these things. Everybody thought it was, 54 holes, no cut. No, actually, those things weren't the big reasons. The big reasons were lack of player pathways, lack of relegation. Back then, they didn't even have a promotions event the very first year. Yeah. So now they're doing some of these things. I don't know how they're going to integrate these 4 players into the league. I don't know if they're going to make them wild card players. I don't know if they're going to let them form a new team. It doesn't really matter. They're bringing on 4 new guys. That helps. Some would argue it's not enough. It's not enough turnover. Yeah. There's been some talk that they're going to have a qualifier, but for only 1 spot.
Relax, Bob. Don't get me excited.
But you know what, though? Why not make it 3 or 4 guys qualify? And why not go up to 60 players?
I mean, I've said for a long time, you'd have 1 million guys show up. You have the team. You can have 4 1-spotters, or you can have 1 4-spotter, and that is the Monday Q team for the week. If they finish top 3 as a team or top 5 as an individual, they carry on. So you could have, if the whole team finishes in the top 3, the whole team gets to move on. If an individual finishes in the top 5, he stays on the team, and then the next Monday qualifiers for 3 spots instead of 4. And then again, and
I think you stole this from me.
I did I? Maybe.
Maybe. Seriously, I wrote that 2 years ago. Something similar to that. Similar to that. I'm just kidding you.
No, I know.
But the idea, the reason that I always thought that was a good idea was, first of all, you do create weekly interest. You
Yeah.
do create that sort of, Hail Mary thing of a guy with nothing who gets out there. And my God, what if he won?
Yeah.
Now, the chances of that are pretty unlikely. The chances of the team advancing are pretty unlikely, but it's another aspect to it. It's what you talk about every week. The dreamer.
Yeah.
But they don't have that.
Yeah.
They do not have that right now, and they miss out, I think. And also, if you had what you just described, you'd have the field variance from week to week that might check an OWGR box. Now, look, I think OWGR might be willing to let them in anyway, even with one new player per week. Maybe they're going to discount their points a small amount or something. These things have not been disclosed, but I think they're headed towards points with these things that they've been doing. But, man, it could be way better.
Yeah, I mean, LIV faces the same thing that I think eventually the signature events, like it's the same players for the most part on the PGA Tour playing against the same players. And these are all very wealthy golfers who, whether they win the Travelers or they don't win the Travelers, is not going to affect their life in any sort of significant way. And so you miss an element of storytelling. Like it's going to get redundant. It already is on LIV based on the viewership in the United States. And I think WGCs didn't work out. I would be surprised if signature events. But also on the OWGR points is like everybody who says they don't deserve points also discounts. I mean, there's no way to not discount OWGR in some aspects now, because no matter if you hate LIV or hate the players that went, there is no argument that some of those players are top 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 players in the world, wherever you play.
Absolutely.
And it's
That's
their own product.
That's the dichotomy here. It's like, we get that even their lowest players are still pros. And if they're competing and beating major champions, that means something. Like I hear the arguments both sides. Oh, well, they're 54 holes. They make fun of the format or whatever. It's exhibition golf. My argument has always been it might not be worth what a regular event is, a full field event, but it's not zero.
Yeah.
But I also understand why OWGR has not accredited them because of those things we've been talking about. No other tour picks their players.
Yeah.
There's a way in. It's actually in reverse with, the Asian Tour sponsored LIV. Usually it's the bigger tour that sponsors the littler tour, and then the little tour feeds into the tour that sponsored it. In this one, it's the other way around. I've thought that they should have a way more robust going back and forth between the Asian Tour and LIV too. That would help them. But here's the problem. We haven't even brought this up. They started this because they believe in the team model and the franchise model.
Yeah.
And, not to say that TGL is the same, it's not. But the one thing TGL did different was they didn't put any teams in place before they had owners. LIV went about it the other way. They put teams in place with no owners, and they still don't have any owners. And I don't see how that thing works unless you have these franchises that are actually sold. And, look, TGL's doing it. Those teams, they're getting 30, 40, 50, $80 million for a TGL team. So it's clearly being done there. I think maybe they got it backwards. I wonder if they should have just started out, said, these guys are going to be captains when we have teams, but we're just going to play individual tournaments until we get our feet on the ground, and then we're going to try to form teams and try to sell them. Look, they did a lot of things on the fly. They've made a lot of changes since. It's incredible to see all the changes that they've made since. But I'll always wonder, if you could get truth serum to them, to like Greg Norman, for example, would he say, yeah, we should have waited on that?
Again, if they don't get OWGR points this time, making the changes that they did, then I think that LIV has a pretty serious argument that they should. Again, I'm with you, Bob. It's like I wish there was more turnover and those kind of things. But people say, well, how do you value a field? I'm like, the OWGR is valuing fields on the Indian Tour. So, I mean, is it going to be perfect? No, of course not. But
there's 25 tours.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I mean, some of them have minuscule points, like 1 or 2 points to the winner. Yeah, right. But they are getting them. And look, I think you and I might have talked about this at some point, but the guy who just won in Utah, Michael Brennan.
Yeah.
He played exclusively, I believe, except for one event this year, exclusively PGA Tour Americas. He only had one Korn Ferry start, and I think he missed the cut. He got to 108th in the world with not earning more than 9 points for any tournament. He won 3 times, obviously, but I mean, he was going to graduate to the Korn Ferry. Playing on those smaller tours and dominating them, you can make a move. So when people discount it, they're just they don't know what, frankly, I don't mean to be disrespectful. They don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. They've not studied how it works.
Yeah. 100%. And I mean, again, to your point is if you had some points on LIV, then you go play what McKibben just did. Yeah. Then McKibben is just supplementing his already points, and he doesn't have to go to Hong Kong and finish to move and win to move up. He's already moving up because he's playing well on LIV. Then he wins in Hong Kong. Now he's moving up, like you said, into the top 50 without even a win. You can supplement your OWGR points. And again, then you just aren't discounting OWGR. Again, like you said, I see it both ways. It's I understand why they said no, but there's no way it's not discounted. There's some of the best players in the world are on LIV. That's just a fact.
And they've admitted that. I mean, Peter Dawson admitted. He goes, look, they clearly are deserving players, but we just don't see a way that their model fits into what everybody else is doing. And I see that too. I didn't understand that at the beginning. I just thought, when they first started, and the other thing we should say, I think LIV, look, maybe the word arrogant is too strong, but their approach was a little heavy-handed. Mm-hmm. They applied for points 3 events into their tenure, and they basically were demanding them immediately. That does not happen. Yeah. All right. That does not happen. Even though we knew they were financially stable and they had very good players, they were never going to get them immediately. It was going to probably take into the next year, especially when they had no avenue for showing us how players would get onto the tour. Mm-hmm. So that's where I thought they made it. They kind of made a bad move. They should have been immediately getting with OWGR and saying, what do we need to do? Yeah. Now, of course, the other side of it is there was a lot of friction, a lot of tension back then. OWGR, for all we know, didn't want any part of them, but they were never going to get it right away. And if this is where OWGR, I thought in year 1 needed to come out and say, hey, look, we need to hear what they're doing for relegating players. We need to hear how are they going to have a Q school? Are they going to change players from week to week? Which actually in year 1 they were doing, because they had in and out, because it was the invitational series. Yep. So anyway, it's kind of fascinating now. Look, 4 years in, now year 5, they're going to go to 72 holes. They've got more robust, although I don't think it's very much. They have more robust player entry points through promotions and the international series. And maybe they have plans to expand that next year. There's only so much you can do. It's already November. Their season starts in February. They needed to get some of this stuff locked down.
Bob, if they get points, let's just assume that they get points. Do you think that changes in any way a player they can recruit? And I'm not talking obviously money would be the main factor if you bring over a top player. But I've always thought that if you can get someone who still has to qualify for majors who hasn't won majors, you might be able to get someone middle of the road's too, not because like there's very good players, but do you think it will change who goes to LIV if they can get OWGR points?
I think possibly yes. Certainly some younger players who might see, especially if they know that that they can sign with a team that will cover some of their expenses and pay them a salary.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously there's guaranteed money then, even if there's no big upfront money. If you know that you can do well out there and earn points, I think that makes the decision a little bit harder to then just to say, oh, no chance.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, like I think a guy on the DP World Tour who's decent and who can still play the DP World Tour
Mm-hmm.
might want to try it also,
Mm-hmm.
because he knows he can earn some points over there. You only have to play 4 events to keep your membership. I know there's the whole issue with the fines, but you can go out and then you can get the best of both worlds. You can be earning points away from LIV. You can be earning points on LIV and making a lot more money.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Does like a big name PGA Tour player make the jump? I kind of doubt it, because I think the John Rahm, Bryson money is gone. I don't think that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's the other thing. You go back to way back. That was never the intention. Yeah. The intention was to never, when it was PGL before LIV, it was never to give these guys that kind of upfront money. The numbers that were floated then were 50 million which look, that's a lot, but it's not 150 million.
Right.
It was 50 million to the captains, 12 captains, 600 million. And then there were going to be far lesser amounts the rungs below. Obviously, when they faced headwinds, the Phil comments that had people recoil, they had to up it, and they came with these huge offers to these guys. That sounds like that's done, and so if you're a young player with no status and no ability to earn points, if you can earn points out there and you want to bet on yourself and say, hey, look, if I finish top 5, top 10 out there a bunch, I can move up in the world. Yeah, I think it does open up that door.
Yeah. On the DP World Tour side, I've always thought that LIV partnering with them in some way probably makes, to me, more sense than the DP partnering with the PGA Tour now that we're in year 5. Do you ever see that being part of it, Bob? They are a feeder tour, whether you want to say it or not. Like, they take their test, they lose their 10 best players every year.
Right.
They need the John Rahms of the world to play DP events. Like, that's what the European is desperate for. Do you ever see the alliance between the DP and the PGA Tour ending, and that alliance in some way, whatever that is, being aligned with LIV in any way?
Possibly. I mean, my understanding is the DP World Tour, PGA Tour alliance is through 2027.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that it exists is because, the DP World Tour was hurting after COVID. The tour is basically underwriting their purses. I don't know the exact terms, but they've guaranteed them a X percentage increase year over year.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is if the DP World Tour loses a title sponsor, and look, there's title sponsors don't pay as much as a PGA Tour event, but let's say XYZ company bails on an event in Europe, and let's say they were paying $5 million. Well, the tour makes up that $5 million, even if the event isn't replaced. So, that's a pretty nice thing that the DP World Tour has going. It can guarantee its purses, plus with a little increase year over year. Obviously, what they had to give up was, a percentage of European Tour productions. They've given Monahan, Jay Monahan, the PGA Tour commissioner, a seat on the board. 10 of their players are going, as you said, not just the top 10 not otherwise exempt.
Right.
So you take Rory and Hatton and Rahm out of there, and then it's 10 guys down the points list. They come to the PGA Tour. So, yeah, I mean, now here's the thing. If that alliance ended and they did a deal with LIV and there's still acrimony between LIV and the PGA Tour, then I don't see those 10 spots coming to the PGA Tour anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I mean, it would make a lot of sense for the DP World Tour to make a deal like that because they'd have access to LIV players throughout the year in theory.
Yeah.
They would coordinate schedules. How the team thing would work, I don't know. I mean, this has always been the thing that's puzzled me with the PGA Tour trying to do a deal with the PIF.
Yes.
If LIV is not willing to reduce the number of tournaments it plays, how does 14 work with 15 or even just 14 at all?
Yeah.
Like there's not the windows for TV. And my understanding is they have been steadfast. They do not want to lower the number of events.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's say they went to 8, and look, the other thing is the PGA Tour needs to be profitable. Their model so far has not been.
Yeah.
And they've shown them that. They know that. They see it themselves. So like, how do you make it profitable and keep it the same? Well, one way is to have TV windows so they can get a TV rights deal. And for whatever reason, they do not want to lower the number of events that they play. They'd probably have to play more in the U.S. because that's where the big TV money is. So, but to your point about DP World Tour, look, that option was explored, way before all this, the infamous so-called Malta meeting that, a lot of the DP World Tour executives have denied there was a deal. But that part of that was, it sounded like the DP World Tour would have done it if there would have just been 4 LIV events.
Yeah.
And LIV said no to that. And ultimately, the DP World Tour said no because the tour came in and made them an offer.
Yeah.
So look, that's going to be fascinating to see how that unfolds over the next couple of years because it certainly could alter the dynamics. I mean, just last year, LIV offered the DP World Tour a deal to, hey, look, if you get rid of the fines, we will give you X amount of pounds and work on scheduling with you. We will give you X amount to supplement your purses and also work with you on our schedule so that our guys who are DP World Tour members can be available to you more often. And the DP World Tour turned it down because of their deal with the tour, PGA Tour.
Yeah. Bob, last question. I know this is super broad and it'll lead to other questions, but we'll do it for the next time. Jay Monahan's coming to the end of his day-to-day. Obviously, he's still going to be involved for a while here. But what is his legacy? You were around. It's easy for me. I'm very critical of Jay, but it's easy for me to be in this small window of COVID, LIV, and how he's handled that. So overall, what is his legacy?
Yeah, I think in time his legacy will be better because when you step back and look at the big picture, COVID was huge. He got them through that. Every week they don't play was a huge money drain. You're losing all that TV money. You're losing all that sponsorship money. That's where the PGA Tour made its money, playing events. They make way more every week than they spend. Unlike LIV, they make money every week. Even this week, even in the fall when there's not as much TV and they still make money. That's why they play. So him getting them back up and running was huge for the PGA Tour. He was involved in the rights deal that they're enjoying right now. $700 million a year just domestically. Who knows what they're getting overseas? The problem with the LIV thing, I've heard this argument made. Why didn't you take a phone call? All right. I think looking at it now, he should have taken a phone call to say that he took a phone call. I don't think it was going to matter because what was that going to accomplish? LIV's plan, the PGL's plan was to play 14 to 18 events with teams and pluck as many top 50 guys in the world as they could. How was the PGA Tour supposed to go along with that? So I don't have a problem with him trying to push back on that. Like, that's fair. Like, the idea that, oh, these guys should just be able to play wherever they want, that's not understanding how the PGA Tour works, how they have deals with their sponsors, how they, support their TV partners by assuring them they're going to have X number of players. But where I think he made a big mistake was going down the political road. He could have argued all of those things. Hey, look, we have rules. We've always had rules. If you break our rules, you're in violation. You don't have to play the PGA Tour, but if you want to, you have to play 15 events. You need releases. You cannot get a release for a domestic event. And you stick to that, fine. But when he went down the 9/11 road and then months later is shaking hands with Yasser on CNBC, he lost a lot of people there. If he had never said the 9/11 stuff, then trying to make the deal with them is probably going to go over better. Tons of people lost respect or had problem with that because
most importantly, players, Bob, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some players like Rory, again, you can agree or disagree with Rory. Rory was like a sacrificial lamb. He was out there defending the tour. In the meantime, his commissioner is like making a deal behind his back. Like it's
right. I mean, look, I don't think anybody would have had a problem with them making the deal so much if they hadn't fought it on the grounds of Saudi is evil. Yeah. And look, that's another story. I've said this many, many times. If you hate it because of that, that's perfectly within your rights. Tons of people I know hate it because of that. That's fine. But the bottom line is the tour should have never said that because it's complicated. The tour's biggest benefactor does business in Saudi and vice versa. There's all kinds of things that go on like that, right? And so when you made it political, then when you turn around to make a deal with them, it just looked really bad. So that is going to probably always haunt Jay. I think he realizes that. He has said he kind of mishandled that. Mm-hmm. So, but when I step back from it, I probably have a more positive view of him overall. Yeah. Who would have handled this situation well? What would they have done? Yeah. It was, they were looking at losing top guy. They couldn't compete with the money. They've reacted. They've been reactionary in a lot of ways. And now they're having to deal with, look, it's forced them to go to a for-profit model. They needed to go out and solicit private equity money. Who knows what that's going to mean? Is that going to make the tour product better? We don't know yet. Yeah. So I think time will tell what his legacy will be. Yeah.
Bob, for those listening, Bob's been wonderful to me. We text often. He's always very appreciative with his time and everything. Thank you, Bob. On short notice, I read his article, sent him a message. An hour later, we're talking. On his pinned tweet, his Tiger Woods book is there. He's on SI. He's often the breaking news of anything LIV PGA Tour related. So, Bob, I appreciate your time. Appreciate all your help along the way, and thanks for jumping on with me.
Happy to do it, Ryan. Anytime. Let's do it again. Thanks.